Conversations with Azu Ishiekwene.
Hello. I did hint at bringing you a follow-up to our last article about the NNPCL on this episode. And today we have it well laid out before you. You must have heard the adage about what happens to those who ride on the back of the tiger. They end up in its belly. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and the vested interests who play around it are a tiger den of sorts. On Thursday, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC, Mr. Bayo Ojulari, told officials of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASAN, that he has been under attack since he assumed responsibility as boss of the NNPC. But he also vowed to implement the reforms in the NNPC as mandated by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Welcome to Conversation with Azu, our weekly diary on life and politics. Our column today is a sequel to the events at the NNPC, and it is titled Nigeria's Top Oil Boss Walking into a Trap. My guest and writer of the column, Mr. Azu Ishiekwene, is here to present further insights that are not there in the news. Welcome to the show, Azu.
Thanks for having me again, Julian. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, for starters, we'll just dive straight into the question and answer session. Your article last time titled What Happened in the Matter of Bayo Ojulari drew a lot of robust engagement. Now, I'm curious, given that they constituted an intrusion into the dangerous territory, did your phone ring with strange callers?
Not many strange, but significant reactions, especially and on azuishiekwene.com, which is my web page, and readers can find out. I mean, there was a significant and quite robust amount of engagement by people who were viewing, and of course people who were sending messages, and quite a number of calls as well. Because before that time, of course, there had been a word in the news about a so-called forced resignation by the group chief executive officer, Mr. Ojulari, and all of that. And there appeared not to be sufficient information about the circumstances that led to that particular phase of turbulence. And I think one thing the article did, obviously, was to shed some light. And I was quite fascinated by the level of engagement by members of the public, and rightly so, I believe.
All right. Right now, Mr. Ojulari seems to be quoting the attention of the labor unions in the industry. Does that not constitute part of the trap you think he's walking into?
I find that rather curious, to say the least, because you also find in that article, I quoted a publication by Business Day that said that in 2020, about 69, the refinery paid out in 2020 about 69 billion naira to staff, wages and salaries and what have you. And of course, obviously, these are union members. And I'm asking myself, what were the unions doing at the time when the refineries were not producing and their members were earning such humongous amounts in salaries and wages? What were the unions really doing at that time? And then you ask yourself, I mean, they are obviously very important and critical stakeholders in the sector, but why is this growing interest in laying your complaint before persons who obviously have, in my view, been a part of the problem? I don't understand his fascination for.
Well, they are stakeholders in the industries, like you said.
Yes,
they are the
yes, but I don't understand his fascination. First, it was at its summit by PENGASAN that he put his foot in his mouth by saying that. Just 1 month after he said there was going to be a full review on what was happening in the refineries to get a position to recommend to the government what to do with the refineries. And then just 1 month down the line, he says at PENGASAN Summit on Wednesday, on the 20th of August, I believe it was, that the refineries were going to be kept and we were expecting that full report that he told Bloomberg about would be ready by the end of the year. And less than 4 weeks later, we are already told that a decision had been reached, obviously by him. And I'm not sure it's in his place to take that decision about what to do with the refineries. But again, that came to the public through the summit he had with Pengassen. And then yesterday, as we said, the Pengassen officials obviously went to visit him again, and he says he's under attack. I was just hoping that some persons there may have asked him, attack by whom and for what? I mean, public officers, and I've not heard many persons say that Bayo Ojulari is not competent to hold the office that he's holding. He's very competent to hold it. But public officers have to be held to their account. It's not a bad thing to hold their feet to the fire. And if you're uncomfortable with the heat, then you stay away from the kitchen.
That was what former governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Raji Fashola, said to former President Goodluck Jonathan, to leave the kitchen if he was uncomfortable with the heat.
Yeah.
Now, in that first article we're still referencing, you said he knows about the rot in the system.
Yes.
Now, it's from what he is panning out, or what we're seeing from his body language, quote and unquote, does it seem capable of dealing with this rot?
I believe he can, if he puts his mind to it. And one must also give him credit for the way he started. As I said in my article as well, when he was appointed in April, I think oil production was about roughly about 1.6
billion
1.6 million barrels, 1.6 million barrels a day. But now it's somewhere around 1.9. So obviously he's done some right things, especially with the terminals, to ensure that the terminals are optimal and we're able to export from there. So that's good, and that's really good for a country that is as cash-strapped and underinvested, as we find ourselves in. So he must be doing a number of good things, and obviously reforming that place is one of the key mandates that he has. And I'm sure that well-meaning Nigerians will support him to do that, but that does not exclude the possibility that he's going to be asked questions.
Okay,
It certainly does not. And these questions, I don't think people should always assume when questions are asked, if they're uncomfortable, that people must be coming from, they must be ill-motivated to ask them those questions. If you're a public officer, you must be prepared to answer questions, sorry.
All right, we'll take a short break while I bring you an excerpt on why we think Bayo Ojulari is walking into a trap. Take a listen, and I quote, "He didn't need to preempt the report of the full review. After the review is complete, the right thing is for him to share the report with the board and the president, who would decide what to do in consultation with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated, and with the advice of the National Economic Council. The refinery is not Ojulari's private company. He cannot decide its fate one way or the other to please the unions or any vested interests." End of quote. So he made a statement about reviving the refineries, which became of particular interest to you. Shouldn't we rather rejoice that an intractable problem is about to solve?
Well, we should. By all means, we should rejoice, and we should encourage him if we have facts that will make us sufficiently comfortable. Now, I must tell you that I do not know the basis on which he has decided that the refineries will be kept. Of course, more came to light in his meeting with Pengassen yesterday, when he then said, that NNPCL will look for a private operator. See, the refineries are just a small part of his responsibilities as the group managing director of NN. He's not group managing director of the refinery. He's not group. He's not group chief executive officer of the refineries. He's group chief executive officer of NNPC, which is more, far bigger than the refineries. Of course, I understand that the refineries are at the heart of the operations, and he jolly well should pay the kind of attention that. But my concern really is that I'm not so sure the basis on which we've been down this road before, and you will recall that one point under Buhari's government, under Mele Kyari, was GCEO then, $1.5 billion was paid to clear to
Service.
Technimont, Technimont of Italy for a so-called rehabilitation of the refinery. Now, of just one of the
Just one
refineries,
refinery, the Port Harcourt
right?
refinery.
The newer Port Harcourt refinery. And your guess is as good as mine. That refinery, even after the so-called turnaround maintenance, was able to do just something about 36,000 barrels per day of its installed 60,000 capacity, which is neither here. As we speak, that refinery is once again, is comatose, it's moribund, it's right on its knees. And I do not know the sort. If you, and I think it's worth talking about the sort of technology on the world has gone way beyond the sort of technology on which on the basis of which that were built many years ago. But if you're so interested and so enamored with the need to get the refineries up and running for whatever reason, I think one thing to do is then to go to the manufacturers of this refinery and see what help they possibly can offer. NNPCL has looked for help everywhere except with the manufacturers. You must ask yourself, why is that so? Why?
Okay, you cited a series of deflections between contractors, management, unions, and other interests, which underscores the former Governor El Rufai's statement that if Nigeria doesn't kill NNPC, corruption will do that. It paints a picture that there might just be no solution to taming the monster.
It's the solutions, the options are very difficult, obviously. And I'm not an expert, but it does seem to me, from the layman's point of view, that sometimes the easiest solutions are the ones that appear to be least attractive. I think that they should do the technical work that needs to be done to evaluate and all of those things. But you know what? I think those refineries should be sold.
The unions will be up in arms.
Well, you see, we are not going to live for the unions, all right? The job of a chief executive sometimes is not just to, it's about the long-term survival and benefits of the company, not about some group interest. They are important. Now, of course, if decisions are going to be taken at the end of the day about what to do, I expect that all stakeholders, including the unions, will be taken into account. But nobody wants to spend $86 billion on rehabilitation or turnaround or maintenance or whatever name it's been called over the years.
That doesn't work.
It's not in the interest of the unions. It's not in the interest of the country. It's not in the interest of the managers of the industry. I don't know why we keep flogging, with due respect, a dead horse. It's not working.
But the argument that, keeping the public refineries functional will hedge against Dangote's feared monopoly seems very reasonable. But is it logical?
It's illogical. And you know why it's illogical? Because, you can't compare apples and oranges. And I say that with due respect. Dangote Refinery is not competing with Nigeria's refineries. Dangote Refinery has a capacity to produce 650,000 barrels. The combined capacity of all four refineries at optimum production is 400. Now the refineries all combined can't even do 60,000. I mean, it's like comparing an elephant, with what? I mean,
a rat or an antelope.
They are not. And Dangote Refinery is gone beyond just it's exporting to the world, exporting urea, to signing deals. They are not. I don't think that Dangote is their headache and should really not be, honestly. NNPCL has huge assets way and beyond just looking after for dying refineries. And I think it's about time we diverted resources to more optimal uses.
So your bet is if we sold the refineries, if the government privatizes the refineries and took their hands off refining, Nigeria's oil sector will be better off.
Let me just give you an illustration. I had a car. It's a Benz. I mean, I love cars. And I fell in love with my Benz Formatic 550, one of the best you could get. Now, I kept, at the risk of my financial well-being, I just kept spending a lot of money, maintaining the sort of thing NNPC is doing with the refinery. Until one day it became clear to me that I was just being foolish. So I called my mechanic and I said, look, if I wanted to sell this car, what do you think it's worth? He said, sir, I'm not even going to buy it. I'm not even going to accept it if you are going to give it to me free of charge. That was the day I knew that I was just being plain stupid. And I needed to get rid of the car just for my own sanity. And it was a decision I took with a heavy heart. But looking back in retrospect, I'm happy I did. That's exactly the problem we have with NNPC and the refineries. They're just hugging a dead horse, and I don't know why. I don't know what pleasure it gives them, but it's about time.
Yes, it's about time we don't go back the path of history, because the refineries have been privatized before, but where, the sale was revoked. For more on this, visit our website at ishiekwene.com for further details and other articles. And if you are interested on how to make money from writing or content creation, we have a book also on our website on ishiekwene.com. And by the way, before I forget, Azu, another book is in the pipeline. Can you just give us a hint?
It's out of the pipeline, actually.
Okay.
It's a book I've got it out, and it's widely distributed. It's on global distribution. It's called A Midlifer's Guide to Content Creation and Profit. It's actually a book that helps people who are in the midlife. And by midlife, I think I give a fairly broad definition of midlife, to start from anywhere around 40 to 60. So that's quite a wide band. And you find that, especially for those the upper end of this midlife, they are really struggling with technology. All right. So this new book is just about how to help you in this transition, which is a transition we all have to make, but it doesn't have to be that painful. So that's why it's a book that it's very dear to my heart, and I hope that it's one that folks out there will find also useful, especially those around midlife who have all sorts of crises that they must be struggling.
And graciously, as I know Azu, I am sure that you will find more details on this book on ishiekwene.com. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Julius.